Good morning everyone. Basa tayo natin kay Jimmy Bible guys. Daily reading plan. Today is July 11, 2022. Day 252 na natin. Ezekiel chapter 40 to 41. Konti na lang. Tapos na tayo sa isang taon. Pagbabasa. Ezekiel chapter 40. In the 5 and 28th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after that the city was smitten, in the selfsame day the hand of the Lord was upon me and brought me thither. And the visions of God brought me into the land of Israel and set me upon a very high mountain by which was as the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand and a measuring reed, and he stood in the gate. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I shall shew thee, for to the intent that I might shew them unto thee art thou brought hither. Declare all that thou sayest to the house of Israel. And behold, a wall on the outside of the house, and round about, and in the man's hand a measuring reed of 6 cubits long by the cubit, and hand breadth. So he measured the breadth of the building 1 reed, and the height 1 reed. Then came he unto the gate which looketh toward the east, and went up the stairs thereof, and measured the threshold of the gate, which was 1 reed broad, and the other threshold of the gate, which was 1 reed broad. And every little chamber was 1 reed long and 1 reed broad, and between the little chambers were 5 cubits, and the threshold of the gate by the ports of the gate within was 1 reed. He measured also the ports of the gate within 1 reed. Then measured he the ports of the gate 8 cubits, and the post thereof 2 cubits, and the ports of the gate was inward. And the little chambers of the gate eastward were 3 on this side, and 3 on that side. They were 3 were of 1 measure, and the post had 1 measure on this side and on that side. And he measured the breadth of the entry of the gate 10 cubits, and the length of the gate 13 cubits. The space also before the little chambers was 1 cubit on this side, and the space was 1 cubit on that side. Ulit natin yung guys, yung verse 12. Verse 11 na lang. And he measured the breadth of the entry of the gate 10 cubits, and the length of the gate 13 cubits. The space also before the little chamber was 1 cubit on this side, and the space was 1 cubit on that side, and the little chambers were 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. So verse 13, he measured then the gate from the roof of 1 little chamber to the roof of another. The breadth was 5 and 20 cubits door against door. Pag ganitong measurement na guys, pag ganitong measurement na hindi ko na yun alam. Ulitin ko yung verse 13 ha, verse 12 ba. The space also before the little chambers was 1 cubit on this side, and the space was 1 cubit on that side, and the little chambers were 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. He measured then the gate from the roof of 1 little chamber to the roof of another. The breadth was 5 and 20 cubits door against door. Pag inanaw niyo kasi ito guys, nagpa-pop up, so malilito ka talaga. Napakaliit pa ng sulat. Verse 14 tayo, kaya pakisabayan niyo ako guys, basa. Verse 14, he made also post of 30 cubits, 7 unto the post of the court round about the gate, and from the face of the gate of the entrance unto the face of the ports of the inner gate were 50 cubits. And there were narrow windows to the little chambers unto their posts within the gate round about, and likewise to their arches, and windows were round about inward, and upon its post were palm trees. Then brought he me into the outward court, and lo, there were chambers and a pavement made for the court, and round about 30 chambers were upon the pavement. Verse 18, and the pavement by the side of the gates over against the length of the gates was the lower pavement. Then he measured the breadth from the forefront of the lower gate unto the forefront of the inner court without 100 cubits eastward and northward. Verse 20, And the gate of the outward court that looked toward the north, he measured the length thereof and the breadth thereof. And the little chambers thereof were 3 on this side and 3 on that side, and the post thereof and the arches thereof were after the measure of the first gate. The length thereof was 50 cubits, and the breadth 5 and 20 cubits. And their windows and their arches and their palm trees were after the measure of the gate that looketh toward the east, and they went up unto it by 7 steps, and the arches thereof were before them. And the gate of the inner court was over against the gate toward the north and toward the east, and he measured from gate to gate 100 cubits. After that he brought me toward the south, and behold, a gate toward the south, and he measured the posts thereof and the arches thereof according to these measures. Verse 25, and there were, verse 25 guys, and there were windows in it, and in the arches thereof round about like those windows the length was 50 cubits, and the breadth 5 and 20 cubits. And there were 7 steps to go up to it, and the arches thereof were before them, and it had palm trees, one on this side and another on that side upon the post thereof. And there was a gate in the inner court toward the south, and he measured from gate to gate toward the south 100 cubits. And he brought me to the inner court by the south gate, and he measured the south gate according to these measures, and the little chambers thereof, and the posts thereof, and the arches thereof according to these measures. And there were windows in it, and in the arches thereof round about it was 50 cubits long, and 5 and 20 cubits broad. And the arches round about were 5 and 20 cubits long, and 5 cubits broad. Verse 31, and the arches thereof were toward the outer court, and palm trees were upon the post thereof, and the going up to it had eight steps. And he brought me into the inner court toward the east, and he measured the gate according to these measures, and the little chambers thereof, and the posts thereof, and the arches thereof were according to these measures. And there were windows therein, and in the arches thereof round about it was 50 cubits long, and 5 and 20 cubits broad. And the arches thereof were toward the outward court, and palm trees were upon the posts thereof on the side and on that side, and going up to it had 8 steps. And he brought me to the north gate, and measured it according to these measures, the little chambers thereof, the posts thereof, and the arches thereof, and the windows to it round about. The length was 50 cubits, and the breadth 5 and 20 cubits. And the posts thereof toward the outer court, and the palm trees were upon the posts thereof on this side and on that side, and the going up to it had 8 steps. And the chambers and the entrance thereof were the posts of the gates, where they washed the burnt offering, and in the ports of the gate were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, to lay thereon the burnt offering and the sin offering and the trespass offering. And at the side without, as one goeth up to the entry of the north gate, were 2 tables, and the other side which was at the ports of the gate were 2 tables. 4 tables were on this side, and 4 tables on that side by the side of the gate. 8 tables were upon these slew their sacrifices. And the 4 tables were of hewn stone of the burnt offerings, of a cubit and an half long, and a cubit and an half broad, and 1 cubit high, whereupon also they laid the instruments wherewith they slew the burnt offering and the sacrifice. And within were hooks and hand broad fastened round about, and upon the tables was the flesh of the offering. And without the inner gate were the chambers of the singers in the inner court, which was at the side of the north gate, and their prospect was toward the south, one at the side of the east gate, having the prospect toward the north. Verse 45, and he said unto me, This chamber whose prospect is toward the south is for the priests, the keepers of the charge of the house. And the chamber whose prospect is toward the north is for the priests, the keepers of the charge of the altar. These are the sons of Zadok among the sons of Levi, which come near to the Lord to minister unto him. So he measured the court 100 cubits long and 100 cubits broad, 4 square, and the altar that was before the house, And he brought me to the porch of the gate of the house, and measured its post of the porch, 5 cubits on this side, and 5 cubits on that side. And the breadth of the gate was 3 cubits on this side, and the 3 cubits on that side. The length of the porch was 20 cubits, and the breadth 11 cubits. And he brought me by the steps whereby he went up to it, and there were pillars by the post, one on this side and another on that side. Hanggang ilan ba tayo, guys? Hanggang 41. So, punta na tayo sa Ezekiel chapter 41. Ang hahaba pa talaga. Ito maiksi lang. Ezekiel chapter 41. Basa. Afterward, they brought me to the temple and measured the post 6 cubits broad on the one side and 6 cubits broad on the other side, which was the breadth of the tabernacle, and the breadth of the door was 10 cubits, and the sides of the door were 5 cubits on the one side and 5 cubits on the other side, and measured the length thereof 40 cubits and the breadth 20 cubits. Verse 3, Then went he inward and measured the post of the door 2 cubits and the door 6 cubits, and the breadth of the door 7 cubits. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits before the temple. And he said unto me, This is the most holy place. Oh. Verse 5, After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chambers, yung holy place, guys. Yung verse 4 ulitin nyo, guys. Oh. So he measured the length thereof 20 cubits, and the breadth 20 cubits before the temple. And he said unto me, This is the most holy place. Verse 5, After he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the breadth of every side chamber 4 cubits, round about the house on every side, and the side chambers were 3 one over another, and the side chambers were 3. Ulitin yung verse 6. And the side chambers were 3 one over another, and 30 in order, and they entered into the wall which was of the house for the side chambers round about, that they might have hold, but they had not hold in the wall of the house. And there was an enlarging and a winding about still upward to the side chambers, for the winding about of the house went its still upward round about the house. Therefore the breadth of the house was still upward, as increased from the lowest chamber to the highest. By the midst I saw also the height of the house, and round about the foundations of the side chambers were a full breadth of 6 great cubits. The thickness of the wall which was for the side chamber without was 5 cubits, and that which was left was the place of the side chambers that were within. Verse 10. Basa rin kayo, guys, ng Bible. Kasi math ito kaya mahirap talaga intindihin. Verse 10. And between the chambers was the wideness of 20 cubits round about the house on every side. And the doors of the side chambers were toward the place that was left, one door toward the north, and another door toward the south, and the breadth of the place that was left was 5 cubits. Was 5 cubits round about. Now the building that was before, yung verse 12 na tayo, guys. Teka muna. Okay, verse 12. Now the building that was before the separate sandali lang, inom lang ako tubig. Ganyan ako pagka na inom ko. Verse 12 na tayo. Nandito kasi ako sa verse 12. Now the building that was before the separate place at the end toward the west was 70 cubits broad, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick round about, and the length thereof 90 cubits. So he measured the house 100 cubits long, and the separate place and the building with the walls thereof 100 cubits long. Verse 14, also the breadth of the face of the house and of the separate place toward the east 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building over against the separate place which was behind it, and the galleries thereof on the one side and on the other side 100 cubits, which the inner temple and the porches of the court. The doorpost and the narrow windows and the galleries round about on their 3 stories over against the door shelved with wood round about, and from the ground up to the windows, and the windows were covered, so that above the door even unto the inner house, and without, and by all the wall round about within and without by measure. And it was made with cherubims and palm trees, so that a palm tree was between a cherub, and every cherub had 2 faces. So that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on the one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on the other side. It was made through all the house round about. From the ground unto above the door were cherubims and palm trees made. And on the wall of the temple, the posts of the temple were squared, and the face of the sanctuary, the appearance of the one as the appearance of the other. The altar of wood was 3 cubits high, and the length thereof 2 cubits, and the corners thereof, and the length thereof, and the walls thereof were of wood. And he said unto me, This is the table that is before the Lord, and the temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors, and the doors had 2 leaves apiece, 2 turning leaves, 2 leaves for the one door, and 2 leaves for the other door. And there were made on them on the doors of the temple cherubims and palm trees, like as were made upon the walls, and there were thick planks upon the face of the porch without. And there were narrow windows and palm trees on the one side and on the other side, on the sides of the courts and upon the side chambers of the house, and thick planks. So that's it, guys. Ezekiel chapter 40 up to 41. Bye everyone. God bless.